On today's hot sheet, I'm discussing the impact of housing affordability on early voters, the effect of elections on home prices, and an FOMC preview as this is a Fed week. Today is Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Happy Election Day. I am Byron Lazine, and the hot sheet starts now. Good morning and welcome into this election day hot sheet. Hope you are doing well. Let me know in the live chat which market you are tuning in from. Also, let me know in the live chat. I actually tricked you guys last week there on who you were voting for. Although I'll say this, the Eric on the Broke Agent account put out yesterday a poll on Instagram that was asking who everybody, who are they going to vote for on president. There was over 4,000 real estate agents that filled out that poll. That might be the biggest poll sample size that we've seen, certainly in the real estate industry. So look out for that article on nowbam.com today. We'll put that out there. But let me know in the live chat if you did early vote, so you voted before today, or if you're today. So go early or today, early or today. Either Eric works on the poll. Cut that out, and I wanna make sure that we get that over to who was that? That was Jeff. Jeff Withers. Jeff, well done. Way to troll the broke agent. Eric works on polls with an E. I like that. Maybe. All right. So early or Laura says last night. Yeah, last night would be so early. If it's before today, early, or if you're planning on voting today. Love to. I'm just curious how many of you guys decided to go early or are going to vote for today. And we have some information about early voters. This headline here is going to be relevant even in your communications to your database throughout the week. Do you not think when Eric talks about trend jacking, that putting out content around the biggest story of the week might not be beneficial for your communications, whether it be in your email or your social content or what have you? Redfin News reports that 38% of people who already voted, so early voters, they say their housing affordability impacted the presidential pick that they selected when they went into the ballot box. Okay, so 4 out of 10 folks who have already voted are concerned about housing affordability. It was an impact on how they made their decisions. Respondents to this new Redfin Commission survey were most likely to say the presidential pick was impacted by the economy, inflation, or protecting democracy. 40% of respondents said housing affordability impacted their pick for local elected officials. Crime and safety was an issue as well. Roughly 1/3 of respondents think mortgage rates will fall if Trump is elected. About 1/4 think rates will fall if Harris is elected. So I guess what you would take from there is a little bit more of people who have already voted. Early voters believe rates will come down more if Trump is elected versus if Harris is elected. What to me is, I think, the most interesting point of all those data points there is that 40% of people are voting with housing affordability in mind. Housing affordability, bundles together our issues of inventory. It bundles together our 7+% interest rates, which we realistically, we got to get them down to 6. 6 is a realistic number that we can get to. We've been there before. If we get there, we know it opens up some level of activity significantly higher than the levels of activity we experience when we're up over 7. But for those of you that, want to really make an impact on your community, really want to be out there and be a leader in housing, if you can lead the conversation around this housing affordability, you know that it resonates with a large majority of the folks who live in your community. And it also shows that you're making a difference. What do I mean by that? I mean, getting involved locally and discussing the issues of housing affordability. See, I don't think really realistically either candidate is going to do what it takes to, in the next year or 2 years to make an impact on housing. Either candidate, I don't believe is going to make an impact on housing affordability. If we look at some of the plans, obviously the Trump plan is, let's go and bring energy costs down. That might be something that, can help the economy and certainly help the bank accounts of many Americans. You get energy going and lower the costs. He's got numbers, big numbers that could, he would lower the cost of energy. If that happens, then certainly, yeah, you can get an economy going, you can get more money in the pockets, which naturally makes homes feel more affordable because there's more money in the bank accounts. Some of Harris's plans of putting $25,000 into first-time home buyers, and then plans to increase inventory. I think one thing we know: house prices actually get pushed up when you give people those $25,000. The inventory I like, but it takes a long time to build. Okay, so one thing I haven't heard either candidate really talk about, which is what I would encourage either candidate that gets in to do on day one. If you really want to impact affordability, you got to impact inventory. You can't impact inventory overnight, but maybe you can. Maybe you can go to all of the homeowners and say, hey, if you've got a second home, an investment property, we're going to give you a 12-month vacation on capital gain taxes. Okay. So holiday on taxes for the next 12, 18 months. Go ahead, put that house on the market and sell it. We're not going to hit you with the capital gains. Okay. We're going to give you that exemption just as if it was a single family home that you've lived in the last 2 years, 250,000 for individual or 500,000 for a couple. Maybe you go that direction. I believe that if you did that, you're going to see a real increase in inventory across all 50 states. That would be substantial enough to get you to the point in 2 or 3 years. If you had a real building plan of, when Harris talks about 3 million homes, well, hey, I'll talk to you by the time you're running again, I guess, for those homes to be built. So what's the stopgap approach between now and then? How do you get inventory onto the market between now and then? You do something like that. That's I would encourage either candidate to do something like that on day one. The more inventory you can get onto the market, the more you can free up this lock-in effect and start to create affordability through inventory. We're significant amount of homes obviously short to meet demand. Digging a little bit deeper now into this report, you've got this was 1,000 U.S. adults that were represented in the survey. Only 25% of the broke agent survey that was just ran on the broke agent Instagram. Harris voters were much more likely than Trump voters to say housing affordability factored into their decision. 43% of respondents who already voted for Harris say affordability impacted their pick, compared to 29% of respondents who have already voted for Trump. This was a huge miss by the Trump campaign too, by the way. Harris, whether you believe in her plan or not, the plan's been kind of ripped to shreds on the giving $25,000 to first-time home buyers because it'll actually push up prices and impact affordability the wrong way. And then building 3 million homes. How do you do it? How do you get it done? All that kind of stuff. So whether you like the plan or not, she's gone out there and made it a central focus of the things that she's talking about. She's definitely, and we broke this down when we looked at the only Harris-Trump debate, she's definitely talked about housing affordability more often than the Trump campaign has. And, typically, whether it's Vance or Trump, when they've been pushed on the issue of housing affordability, they've talked about unlocking domestic energy, bringing down the costs. And, you follow where they're going, bringing down the cost on transportation, on building materials, and all of these things. Yes, all true. To me, that should have been a component of a bigger, housing plan. Both parties have talked, or both candidates have talked about, unlocking some of the, some of the federally owned land Most of that land is out west. So you could help, some of the western states out. Like 80% of Nevada, for example, is federally owned land. How much of it is actually buildable and all of that obviously is worth debating. But most of the federally owned land to this point in states is out west. You look at the Northeast states, you're talking about 1%. They're, the I almost said tree huggers. I guess now I did say tree huggers. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, if that's a trigger word, but I don't think the tree huggers would support giving up 1% of federally owned land. No offense to tree huggers. I love trees too. I think trees are fantastic. I love trees. Just a lack of a better phrase there. But if you've got 1% of federally owned land in the state, that plan doesn't work, unlocking federally owned land. So I think that was a miss on the Trump campaign overall by not having more talking points, because you go on TikTok, you go on YouTube Shorts, you go on Instagram Reels, and you do hear young Gen Z, millennial talking, if they're interviewed on the street, hey, why are you voting for one candidate or another? I want to buy a house someday. I want to buy a house today. This is important for so many voters, so many Americans, whether they're voting or not. This is an important issue, and it's an issue that you're privileged to be working on as somebody who's working in housing, as somebody who's a real estate professional. You have the privilege of working on this issue. And so once you get past today and get on the other side and we have certainty of whoever the candidate's going to be, I encourage everybody to get involved locally on at least being in the conversation of what's going on around the housing affordability issue, because the data is clear. It's on the top of everybody's mind. If you're leading that conversation, if you're sending out data like the data, and this will be available for all BAMX members, charts, all of the headlines, so you can grab it easily and use that in your communication. BAMX is the place to get the fastest access to data and tools. Use code HOT to get into BAMX. Obviously, you get the Zoodelio platform as well. Side note, office hours tomorrow for BAMX members is with Zoodelio. So a bunch of you guys using that platform. You get that obviously as part of BAMX. We're doing that tomorrow. But take this information and use this in your conversation so that people in your community know, hey, I'm somebody who cares about housing affordability. I'm addressing the issue that's on the mind of most voters and most people living in the community. Leading concern was the economy at 63%. Why are people concerned about the economy? They want to be able to afford the lifestyle that they desire. Inflation, 59%. The stuff that we're talking about here each and every day on the hot sheet, so that we're equipped with the tools. Protecting democracy, 56%. Probably stay away from that, because nobody's even been able to define that one. Next was immigration, 55%. I'd probably stay away from that a little bit, unless you're in one of those border states. Might be relevant for your customers and clients. Healthcare, crime and safety, access to abortion, all major issues. When we start to get into the political stuff, we're not going to touch any of that stuff here. Foreign wars, freedom of speech, gun violence, blah, blah, blah. What was leading the case here? It was economy and it was inflation. That was 1 and 2. Okay. Buying a home, housing affordability, 40%. You could actually mix that into economy and inflation conversation as well. 40% say the affordability impacted their presidential pick. When you break it down per Trump voter versus Harris voter, economy 68% Trump, 60% Harris. Both people that support both campaigns in your community are passionate about the economy, the local economy, the national economy. Inflation, 65% Trump, 53% Harris. So a little bit of a gap there. And then we go to housing affordability. Interesting. It was 29% drop on Trump and then 43% on Harris, making it 40% overall. I know when I look at just anecdotally, I look at the young, folks that are being asked this question, Gen Z, millennial, your buyer of tomorrow for real estate. When I look at those TikToks and, other content online, housing comes up almost every single time. Okay. So here's how people are thinking about U.S. residents are thinking about the mortgage rates. Again, charts will be available for you inside of BAMX. Use code HOT to get in BAMX today. 1 out of 3 U.S. residents think mortgage rates will fall if President Trump is elected versus a Harris presidency. So 32% believe mortgage rates will fall. Trump voters, 23%. Harris voters believe mortgage rates will fall. 28% believe mortgage rates will rise if Trump is elected. So this is Trump presidency, 28%. 32% believe they will rise if it's a Harris presidency. 15% believe mortgage rates will stay the same if Trump is elected. 18% believe they will stay the same if it is a Harris win on election day here. And then 25 and 26% say they don't know. Okay, so I guess people lean a little bit more towards them falling if Trump is elected, 32 to 23%, and they lean a little bit more towards them rising if Harris is elected, 32 to 28%. That's just the gut feel of, remember, just early voters. And obviously there's going to be a lot more people here voting today. All right, all that information will be available for you inside of BAMX. Before we move on to what actually happens to sales and what happens to prices after presidential elections, I do want to remind you, I just mentioned it, BAMX members, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, we have an office hours with Zudilio. The stats inside of Zudilio are absolutely bonkers. So let me just pull this up. Facebook, thank you for letting me know that it is election day. I was unaware. I completely missed that one. But if you're in our BAMX our BAMX community, the Facebook group, totally bonkers. I posted the screenshot. There's already been 318 client uploads into Zudilio and 37 total accepted offers. Zudilio helps you compete with iBuyers. So if you want to have multiple offers for your clients from day one, you can do that. 37 accepted offers already. This has only been running just 2+ weeks with BAM. This is just BAMX members that are bringing this value to your clients. Zudilio, different than any other iBuyer, they partner with you, the agent, to make sure that you keep your commission and are able to bring more tools to every one of your sellers, helping you get more listings. Join BAMX today to get Zudilio completely included into your BAMX experience. Use code HOT to join BAMX today. And tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, we have our office hours with the CEO of Zudilio, as well as the operations officer there to dig deep in that. All right, let's get into sales. What's going to happen after today? What is likely to happen after today, once we know with certainty who has won the presidential election? First thing I care about is, do sales go up typically? Will we see more sales? What has history shown us? Because if we're going to unlock 3.84 million homes right now, trending towards the worst existing home sale record ever recorded since 1995, we need to get more movement in the market. What typically happens is during the season, right now, you have a slight seasonal drop in sales. So what we've experienced the last 30 days, if you feel slower, your market's moving slower, well, that's normal. Presidential election years, you have a 15% seasonal drop the month prior to a presidential election versus 10% in non-presidential years. That data goes back from 1963 to 2019. Okay, so pretty good sample size of data. How about what happens after the elections? Home sales actually went up. This is according to Keeping Current Matters, who sources data from HUD and NAR. Okay, home sales actually went up after 9 of the last 11 presidential elections. Okay, the only 2 years they went down was 1980 and 1988. Okay, 1980, no surprise, and maybe an indication of what you could see, unfortunately, hopefully not in 2025, because we've had 2 bad years, but 1980 was coming out of really high inflationary interest rate times. So you can kind of make that case. So 81 home sales went down from 2.9 million to 2.4 million. In 88, they went down from 3.5 to 3.6 really to 3.3 million seasonally adjusted. Every other year, they've gone up 84, 92, 96, 2000 election, 2004, 8, 12, 16, 20. So the trend is, especially in more recent times, that home sales go up. Now we're trending on our worst record, since 1995 at 3.84 million existing home sales. It's almost a safe bet to say they go up no matter what. So that trend likely to continue as we get the certainty of who the next president will be. Existing home prices also went up after 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. Remember, people like certainty. This is regardless of who gets in. This is not a, if one party gets in or the other. This is a regardless. Think about all these years. There has been a very much a mix back and forth of, either side getting in. So this is not a, hey, if one of these candidates gets in, this is the consensus of what's likely to happen once you get over the uncertainty of a presidential election year. Okay, 7 of the 8 last elections, home prices went up. What's the only year they didn't? That was 2008. That was the biggest mortgage crisis ever in the world that's ever happened. Okay, so 2008, you'd expect home prices to go down. Okay, we're not going into a mortgage crisis scenario. So I expect home prices, yes, yet again, to go up, probably slightly with some of the increases that we've seen, depending on how much money printing goes on. Then I expect them to go up even more. Mortgage rates decreased leading up to 8 of the last 11 presidential elections. Okay, from July to November. Now we've actually had an increase here. July, we're on a trend to seeing the same exact thing. Mortgage rates decreasing, and then come November, October, those rates popped. So you saw a trend downward starting in July, which would have been on pace with 8 of the last 11 presidential elections. And then, of course, we know what happened, and we got those air quotes strong job reports, which obviously have now looked a whole lot weaker, and we saw those rates go up. Surprisingly, the rates continue to stay up, maybe because of some of the uncertainty going on today, and the rates are, just going to stay up, but also because of, how much that deficit, we talked about that yesterday, how much of the deficit we're going through here currently, which is keeping those rates high as well. Some other data here on what history will tell us, okay, on presidential election years. Okay, what the housing market in election years, what history shows. This is according to Business Insider. There's a persistent notion that election years hamper the housing market. So think about that. That is the mindset of consumers, that oh my gosh, presidential election year, bad time to buy, bad time to sell, should wait, get frozen. This is something that's in the mind. Okay, but again, as we just looked at on those tables, history tells a different story. Okay, the 9 elections that have happened since 1987 has home price appreciation outpacing appreciation in 28 non-election years since. Okay, so not only are home prices moving up, the level of appreciation, according to bank rate analysis of the S&P CoreLogic Home Price Index, it's not just that home prices have moved up in the majority of years after the election. It's that the appreciation actually outpaced the appreciation in other years. Here, take a look, okay? 1987, okay, that was leading up to an 88. You had 7.2% and 7.23% in 88. Then 89, 4.39%, okay? Look at 2000. That was an election year, 9.29%. The year after, 6.68%. Obviously, we know that there was a little bit of a run-up about to happen. If we just go to more recent times here, okay, 2016, 5.3%. The year after, 6.21%. Okay, 2020, you had 10%, and then 21, 18%. Okay. And so this is typically just for whatever reason, I think it has a lot to do with the certainty. Typically, you see real estate perform really well in the election years and the year after the election year. And here's maybe a better look with the nowbam.com article on that analysis that I just showed you. Home price appreciation by year from 87 to 2023. This might be something, whether you use the hot sheet, show notes, copy and paste, or take from this article, however you want to do it, to get out and, pour water on any of the fears of what's going to happen to my home value. Or on a buy side, am I going to get a deal all of a sudden because, we're going through an election and inauguration and all this? No, the home prices are likely to go up. Let's go ahead and buy in the winter when home prices in a 12-month cycle are going to be the most favorable for us. Okay. And if you go through here, home prices 88 went up, 92 went up, 96 went up, 2000 went up, 04 went up, 2008, the only year again that they went down. Mortgage crisis year, 2012 went up, 16 went up, and 20 went up. The worst year was 2008. It was obviously terrible economic timing. The best year, obviously, 2021. Ali Wolf, the chief economist at Zonda, said home sales are generally normal for most of the election year, with exception of right now, November, when sales slow down a tick. Okay, so, and that's similar to what we've seen here this year. Also inside of BAMX, we've got a little bit of done for you content. So I say, hey, grab these Hashi show notes every day, grab the charts that are available in here. Use that in your communications. If you want stuff that's just simply done for you, every Friday we release done for you content, like I'm showing you on the screen here. Inside of BAMX, it's called BAMX in a box. You get all of that included inside of BAMX, along with the Zoodelio platform. There's just so much. It's unbelievable. It's not just an election week, though, folks. It is also a Fed week. Okay, we've got an FOMC meeting happening tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we have a Jerome Powell press conference on Thursday afternoon. If you can believe all of the data and government overload of this first week in November, it is coming at you hot and heavy. So the FOMC preview, the Fed is to cut rates 25 basis points. That's the expectations, nearly 100% on the CME poll. Let's just double check that to make sure that's accurate. Yeah, 96%. So this is the strongest poll that you will see all day. You'll probably see 100 polls today. None will be as favorable as this. 96% CME group predicting that we will indeed have a 25% Fed cut here when they meet. And most analysts do expect that to be the case, lowering target rate from 4.5 to 4.34. Almost all market participants are expecting this. And here's what BofA says, Bank of America, we expect this 25 basis point cut. Jerome Powell's message in the press conference should remain optimistic, particularly given the recent robust data flow. Powell is likely to emphasize data dependence once again and provide little forward guidance about the policy path. I also expect him to get a whole bunch of questions about whoever, if we know who the president is by Thursday, hopefully we do. I expect him to avoid all the partisan questions and say, hey, regardless of, if I'm about to get fired or not, obviously he might get that question depending on who gets in. Regardless of that, we have a mandate from Congress, which is a dual mandate to lower inflation down to 2%, maximize employment. He's going to just play the same script there. We'll be looking on our end for what he says in particular about housing. We'll pull all of that data out for you and obviously break it down. 4.341 in the 10-year. So we're seeing a 24-hour run up here on the 10-year after we were back down to 4.28 yesterday. So not good news there for the outlook of the 30-year fix here on election day. We saw a tick down yesterday to 7.05. I expect that number to go up if the 10-year holds here throughout the day. That is your election day update here on the hot sheet. If you're getting value from the hot sheet each and every single day, hit the thumbs up and certainly subscribe to the @NowBam YouTube channel. If you're ever interested in the audio replays of Hot Sheet, those are available on Apple and on Spotify. If you're listening there, please consider leaving us a review on those two platforms. We would greatly appreciate that. Hope everybody has a great election day. Go out there and obviously vote if you have yet to do that. And I will see you back here tomorrow. Actually, I will see you later on here on the live channel, or on the YouTube channel rather, for a Real Word podcast. We will have a new Real Word up this afternoon, and I will obviously be with you live tomorrow on the Hot Sheet, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. There will be, I'm certain, a lot to discuss tomorrow. So see you then. Until then, toodaloo.